My mom came to this place where she didn't even know if her given name was really her name or if her birthday was really her birthday. Her birth certificate had been completely fabricated. So to me, is a show about identity, who we are, where we come from, and where we're going, and the resilience that can be shown. Even everyday people it can show extraordinary resilience.
What's up, everyone? Tania here with popculture.com, and I'm so excited to welcome renowned psychic medium Tyler Henry, whose new show, Life After Death with Tyler Henry, premieres March 11th on Netflix. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I wouldn't have missed it. I'm so glad to get to talk to you again.
Yeah, of course. And, congrats on the show. I loved it. It's so insightful and it's really well done. For fans and new audiences, because it is on a global platform, what can viewers expect and how is it different from your past series?
Sure. So Life After Death is a very different show than Hollywood Medium. It's still jam-packed with readings, but it really was emphasized to focus on the waiting list that I had. Over 300,000 people had inquired for readings after Hollywood Medium aired. And so the show really meets that demand with everyday people with really compelling stories. Beyond that, I also got to explore a family mystery that synchronistically lined up with filming and, quite a story of discovery and identity and trying to understand who my family is. There was a huge family mystery for those who've seen the show regarding my mom's side of family, her being taken as a baby and discovering that she had a completely different biological family than she thought she did. And so the show really captures that vulnerability as well as my personal life in a way that we've never seen on any other show.
Yeah. And that's like the most fun part, because I feel like we don't get to see you. And on Hollywood Medium, it was a lot like you talking to the celebrities and that was it. This year, we get to see your heart. We get to see the way you interact with your family, your friends, your boyfriend. It's very stripped down. And I love that. And there's obviously the personal revelations that emerge. So I'm curious, what made you want to share that vulnerable side with fans and audiences now?
Well, I think it was important. I knew in doing the show that I wanted to read everyday people because that's really where my passion lies and being able to help people who really have a need. But interestingly, it just kind of worked out. I was coming to this understanding about my family and we still had a lot of questions and the cameras happened to be there. So we just kind of synchronistically explored that mystery and in our pursuit of answers, acquired some and got some clarity. And then meanwhile, really had to assess what it even really meant to get closure, which I think is something both you see in readings and in my personal kind of pursuit for answers and kind of having to have an acceptance around the idea that there may never be full closure around what happened, but clarity was really the goal.
Yeah. And, let's talk about the readings, because you mentioned the readings that you feel sometimes the energy of a reading after it's done. So is that residual energy more physical or emotional, or is a blend of the two?
It's totally dependent on the reading. Some are more physical, some are more emotional, but I definitely often will leave a reading still feeling some residual feelings that I have to kind of do certain things to help let go. That very often involves just having either extreme silence or sometimes I'll blare music really loud, and that can kind of help jolt me into a state where I'm kind of letting go of whatever was coming through.
Yeah. And one of the things I loved so much was when you met the private investigator. I thought that was such an interesting thing. I feel like we've never seen that before. That was such a powerful moment too. Is it a different process to read off a cold case file versus somebody's energy in front of you?
I would say it's the same process, just maybe done in a bit of a different way, applied in a different way. In this case, it was interesting to work with an intermediary who was involved with the case, but wasn't a family member. And that's really, for me, where I saw a lot of value. When you're working with families, that's very personal, very emotional. Whereas working with a private investigator, there was some degree of objectivity there, which I liked. And so being able to do that was fascinating, to really kind of push my ability to its limits, to see what I could get, what I could add that could have value in a practical way. And then, of course, getting to meet with the young man's mother who passed, I feel like it kind of came full circle, both in working on his case and then getting to meet his mom.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful moment. I was crying watching that. And I can just imagine when you're there too, it's very emotional for you. So that takes a toll, you said. I'm wondering, does that energy sometimes, it lasts for days, right? Like I know that you were mentioning that in the show.
It definitely can. So many people think that a reading starts when I sit down with someone, but I think the show really demonstrates it starts days before and sometimes will last days after. And so I think it really does show really what I went through and what I go through on a daily basis in a way that'll give people more of an understanding of how difficult it really is.
Yeah. And, I feel like at the end of the day, we have a lot more in common than our differences suggest. So is there a common message you receive from those who have passed on?
Oh, you know what? I think everybody is, for the most part, just doing their best. Yeah. And I think that was one of the takeaways. I've connected with both living and departed people who have lived colorful lives. Some have, done some amazing things. Some have done some maybe not so amazing things. And I think so often people, when they reflect back, look at where they were. And, I think most of us are doing our best. I think my work has taught me to have compassion for people, no matter what position they're in, no matter what they've done, to try to see past that aspect and just view them as human beings. Maya Angelou has a great quote. It says something along the lines of, nothing human is foreign to me because I am a human. And I really love that sentiment.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And I loved so much of the show with you and your mom, your interaction. You guys are so cute. What was it like, getting to spend that much time with her, especially on air? Because she's never been on camera. I think it was a couple of times she used to drive you to places and she's still doing that. But to actually engage in this family revelation with her too, what was that like?
Oh, it was extremely cathartic for her to go back to these places that she had honestly never been since. It was really intense for her. And I think very, very emotionally jolting, but there was a lot of healing that came from it. I found myself at a certain point in the filming, just kind of almost just going very quiet. And I was in shock myself as we were making some of these discoveries. My mom came to this place where she didn't even know if her given name was really her name or if her birthday was really her birthday. Her birth certificate had been completely fabricated. So it to me is a show about identity, who we are, where we come from and where we're going, and the resilience that can be shown. Even everyday people can show extraordinary resilience.
Yeah. And it's such an emotional series and it really tugs at your heart. And, you talk about resilience and, heart and emotion. What is it that you want viewers to know most about this show?
Yeah. I would just say when it comes to kind of my greater takeaways, everybody is capable of resilience. Nobody thinks it's going to happen to them until it does. But really, I've learned through this work that the only way out is through. And when we can think of it that way, no matter what we're going through, we will always come out on the other side if we can just take it one day at a time, no matter what we're going through, and do something with what we're experiencing that hopefully can better the world.
Yeah, for sure. And, before I let you go, I always love talking to you. I know you have a new book coming out this month, which is so exciting. So congrats on it. Tell readers what we can expect from Here and Hereafter.
Yeah, so Here and Hereafter was a culmination of my work during the pandemic. I had that collapsed lung, so I had a lot of free time to write. And it was really a very reflective time in my life where I was thinking about what I've learned since I wrote my last book. I released a memoir at 19, and I have a joke where I say, at 19, I don't know how much of a memoir you could really put considering it's only 19 years, but at 26, I've learned a little bit more, and I'm always learning and will always remain humble in that regard and willing to change my mind. But this book really shares some of the most valuable stories, some of the most insightful moments that I've had. And I really think of the book as if the departed could do it differently, what would they do it over? And I think we can learn from other people's mistakes and really live in the here and the now in that way. So that was really the goal of it.
Yeah, and the book also, it acts like a self-help guide to transform your life. So is there one piece of wisdom that you've learned from the afterlife interactions that has helped you where you are today?
I would say honoring our intuition is one of the biggest ones. We hear that word thrown around a lot, and I think a lot of people don't really know how to identify intuition, but it's as simple as when you go to shake someone's hand for the first time, you get a first impression, and that first impression is intuition. You use your intuition when you have a pet, and it gives you the look, and you're like, okay, do you need to go potty or do you need to get fed? I think having conversations around it's really important as it can better our life. It's that inner compass that will really never lead us astray, and I hope it encourages people to go with their gut.
Yeah, for sure. And Tyler, it's been an absolute pleasure. I love you so much. And I love the time we got to spend together today to talk about life after death with Tyler Henry, which premieres on Netflix March 11th. And his book Here and Hereafter is out March 29th. Guys, for more with Tyler, head to popculture.com for the latest.